I still remember the exact second my world cracked open. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late November, snow tapping the kitchen window like impatient fingers. I was stirring oatmeal for my grandson, Ethan, my little Ethan, with his beautiful, quiet eyes that never quite met yours. And the phone rang. "Mom," Emily said, her voice bright and sharp as broken glass, "don't come to the wedding. Mark's family thinks it would be awkward. You understand, right?" Click. The line went dead before I could answer. I stood there, with the wooden spoon dripping oatmeal onto my slippers, staring at the phone like it had bitten me. My only daughter had just erased me from the day she used to dream about when she was 6, twirling in my old lace curtains, pretending they were a veil. That was the first cut. There would be many more. People think grief is loud. It isn't. Grief is the soft squeak of the rocking chair at 3 a.m. when you realize no one is coming. Grief is folding tiny superhero shirts that will never be worn in your house again because the city has better therapies. Grief is the smell of cinnamon rolls cooling on the rack for a little boy who now lives 3 states away and calls another woman Mommy. I raised Ethan alone for 8 years. Emily dropped him on my porch when he was 4, suitcase in one hand, diagnosis papers in the other. He flaps his hands too much. Parties make him scream. I can't do influencers and autism. Those were her exact words. She kissed his forehead like she was returning a library book and left in her new Jeep before the dust settled. I was 61 then, widowed, arthritic, and suddenly a mother again to a child who spoke in echoes and lined his toys up by color instead of playing with them. But oh, how I loved him. I learned PEX cards before I learned how to use an iPad. I sat through hours of ABA that broke my heart, but taught him to say, "I love you, Grandma," in a voice like wind chimes. I sold the good jewelry my husband gave me to pay for horse therapy because horses didn't judge when Ethan didn't answer back. Every night I sang him the same lullaby my mother sang me, even when he covered his ears. Love isn't always returned the way you give it. Sometimes love is just showing up. The years slipped by quiet and hard. Emily posted pictures from Dubai, from Paris, from rooftop bars with men who look like magazine covers. Once a year, on Ethan's birthday, she sent a text, "Tell my baby I love him." I never told him. He didn't need ghosts. Then everything changed. Ethan was 16 when he built the app. He called it Quiet Space, an augmented reality tool that overlays calming visuals and white noise for autistic kids in meltdown. He coded it in my basement on an old laptop I bought him at a garage sale. I brought him peanut butter sandwiches and sat on the steps listening to the click of keys like rain on a tin roof. Within 18 months, it had 3 million downloads. Apple featured it. Investors called. By the time he turned 18, Ethan, my silent, beautiful boy, was worth $3.2 million. He bought me a new washer because he noticed I carried laundry to the laundromat in snow. He still lined his socks by color. That's when the vultures came home. I was pruning roses in the front yard, thorns catching my old yellow gloves, when the black SUV pulled up. Emily stepped out in sunglasses that probably cost more than my car. Behind her, a man in a suit, tall, thin, expensive watch, carried a leather briefcase like a weapon. "Mom," she sang, arms wide. I stayed on my knees in the dirt. She hugged me anyway, perfume choking the smell of earth. "We've missed you so much, and Ethan, God, look how tall he is." Ethan stood on the porch, hands flapping once, twice, then still. He looked at me, not her. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mrs. Harper, we're here to discuss guardianship transfer and asset management. Emily is ready to assume full parental responsibility now that Ethan's circumstances have changed." I wiped dirt on my apron and stood up slow. My knees cracked like old doors. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house touching things. The dent in the wall where Ethan rocked too hard when he was 5. The growth marks on the pantry door. The tiny handprints in blue paint we never could scrub off the hallway. Every corner held a piece of us. I thought about the years I cashed my Social Security early so he could have speech therapy. I thought about Emily's wedding photos I was never sent. I thought about the lawyer's polished shoes on my porch like he already owned it. The next morning, I did 4 things before breakfast. First, I called my attorney, Mr. Delgado, the one who helped when my husband died. Second, I signed the papers that made Ethan the sole trustee of his own fortune the day he turned 18, which was in 3 weeks. Third, I removed Emily's name from the small life insurance policy I still had. Fourth, I changed the locks. Not out of spite, out of exhaustion. The keys felt cold and heavy in my palm, like river stones. She came back 2 days later, screaming on the porch so loud the neighbors peeked through curtains. "Mom, open this door. This is insane. He's my son." I opened it, just a crack, chain still on. Ethan stood behind me, holding his tablet like a shield. Emily tried to push past. I didn't move. "You abandoned him," I said. My voice didn't shake. It hadn't shaken since the night I found him crying in the bathtub at 6 years old because the water sounded like monsters. I learned steady that night. "You don't get to come back when there's money," I told her. "You had 8 years of birthdays you missed, 8 years of Christmas mornings you missed, 8 years of meltdowns in grocery stores where strangers judged me and I still held him. Where were you?" She cried then. Beautiful, practiced tears. The lawyer started talking about courts and rights. I looked at Ethan. He pressed a button on his tablet. A calm ocean wave sound filled the air. His voice, computer-generated but still his words, came through the speaker. "Grandma is my family." That was all. I closed the door. They left. The SUV kicked gravel all the way down the street. Some nights, I still wake up reaching for a little boy who isn't there anymore. Ethan moved into his own apartment downtown last year, close enough to visit, far enough to grow. He bought the building, he kept the top floor unit for me whenever I'm ready. I'm not ready yet. This house still smells like cinnamon rolls and safety. I sit on the porch now in the same rocking chair, watching sunsets that paint the sky the color of Ethan's old paint by numbers. Sometimes I wear the necklace he made me out of plastic beads when he was 7. It's ugly and perfect. The roses I was pruning that day bloomed blood red all summer, like they were angry on my behalf. Emily sends letters now, long ones. Apologies, memories, she rewrites, promises. I don't open them anymore. I put them in a shoebox in the attic next to her baby shoes. Some things you keep so you never forget the weight of what you carried. Some things you keep so you remember how strong you became when you finally put them down. If you're listening to this and your heart is bruised for loving people who wouldn't love you back, hear me. You are allowed to close the door. You are allowed to change the locks. You are allowed to eat dinner alone with the television off and the silence soft as flannel. Peace is not the absence of noise. Peace is the presence of dignity. I still bake cinnamon rolls every Sunday. Ethan comes over. We sit at the same scarred table and he lines the rolls up by size before he eats them. I watch him and I think, this is what love looks like when it stays. This is what winning feels like when nobody applauds. The snow is falling again tonight, gentle as forgiveness I'll never give. I wrap my old sweater tighter and rock, rock, rock. Somewhere inside, a little boy who never quite left is safe. And for the first time in decades, so am I.